Her father's venomous words sliced through the room, branding her a failure, a disgrace, until Grandpa's thunderous voice shattered the lies. You're not her father, he roared, exposing a secret so raw it tore the family apart. Rage, tears, and betrayal erupted as the truth clawed its way out, leaving her to pick up the pieces of a life built on deception. This isn't just a story. It's a screaming, gut-wrenching showdown you can't look away from. Like, subscribe, and share for more inspiring stories. She sat at the edge of the dining table, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped her fork. The room was filled with the clatter of plates and the low hum of family chatter, but her father's voice cut through it all like a knife. He was loud, brash, and unapologetic, as always. Tonight was no different. The family had gathered at her grandparents' house for a rare dinner. Her mom, her two younger brothers, her aunts and uncles, and of course Grandpa, who sat quietly at the head of the table, watching everything unfold. Her father leaned back in his chair, a smirk plastered across his face. You know, she's 25 now, and what's she got to show for it? Nothing, not a damn thing. Still living at home, still mooching off us. I mean, look at her. She can't even hold a job for more than a month. His words were directed at her, but he spoke to the room like she was some kind of exhibit. She felt her face burn. Her name was Emily, but in moments like this, she felt like nothing more than his daughter, a punching bag for his ego. She stared down at her plate, the mashed potatoes blurring as her eyes stung. She wanted to speak, to scream, but her throat tightened. Everyone else stayed quiet, awkwardly shifting in their seats. Her mom gave her a weak, apologetic glance, but said nothing. That was typical. Her mom never stood up to him. You're a disgrace, Emily, her father continued, his voice rising. I bust my ass every day to put food on the table. And you sit around like some princess who's too good for the world. You're useless. I should have kicked you out years ago. That's when Grandpa cleared his throat. It wasn't loud, but it was enough to make her father pause mid-rant. All eyes turned to the old man. He was in his late 70s, his face lined with years of hard work and harder truths. His hands, rough from decades of labor, rested calmly on the table. He didn't look angry, not yet, but there was something in his eyes that made the air feel heavy. Tom, Grandpa said, addressing her father by name. His voice was steady, low. You need to stop talking. Her father scoffed, leaning forward now. Excuse me? This is my daughter, Dad. I'll say what needs to be said. She's a leech, and I'm tired of pretending otherwise. Grandpa didn't flinch. You think you're some big man, huh? Sitting there tearing her down in front of everyone? You think that makes you strong? Emily looked up surprised. Grandpa rarely spoke during his family dinners, let alone challenged her father. Her father's face twisted into a sneer. Oh, here we go. The old man's going to lecture me now. Go ahead, Dad. Tell me how to raise my kid. I didn't raise you to be a bully, Grandpa shot back, his tone sharpening, but that's what you are. You've been humiliating her for years, and I've had enough of watching it. The room went dead silent. Even her younger brothers, who usually snickered at their dad's jabs, stared wide-eyed. Her father's smirk faded, replaced by a flash of anger. You don't know what you're talking about. She's lazy. She's a failure. You want to defend that? Grandpa leaned forward, his eyes locking onto her father's. You want to talk about failure? Let's talk about you, Tom. Let's talk about the truth you've been running from your whole damn life. Emily's heart pounded. She had no idea what Grandpa meant, but the way he said it, like he'd been holding something back for years, made her sit up straighter. Her father's face darkened. What the hell you on about, old man? You think you're better than her? Grandpa said, his voice rising now. You think you've got the right to sit there and judge her? You, of all people. You're a coward, Tom. A liar. And I'm done letting you act like you're some saint. Her father slammed his hand on the table, making the glasses rattle. You better watch your mouth. I don't care how old you are. You don't talk to me like that. I'll talk to you however I damn well please, Grandpa roared, standing up now. His chair scraped against the floor. You want to know why Emily struggles? You want to know why she's still at home? It's because of you. You've beaten her down every chance you got. You've told her she's nothing so many times she started believing it. Emily's breath caught. She'd never heard anyone say it out loud like that. Her father's face turned red, his fists clenched. That's bullshit. She's weak because she's weak, not because of me. No, Tom, Grandpa said, his voice dropping to a dangerous calm. She's not weak. She's stronger than you'll ever be. And you hate that. You hate that she's still here, still fighting, despite everything you've done to break her. Her father laughed, but it was bitter, forced. Oh, you're full of it. What's this truth you're so eager to spill? Go on, say it. I dare you. Grandpa didn't hesitate. You're not her father. The words hung in the air like a bomb that hadn't yet exploded. Emily's head snapped up, her eyes wide. Her mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Her father froze, his mouth half open. The rest of the family stared dumbfounded. What did you just say? Her father growled, his voice low and threatening. You heard me, Grandpa said, unflinching. You're not her father, and you've known it this whole time. Emily's mind spun. She looked at her mom, whose face had gone pale. Mom, she whispered, her voice shaking. What's he talking about? Her mom didn't answer. She just sat there, eyes darting between Grandpa and her husband. Her father stood up now, towering over the table. You are a lying bastard, he spat at Grandpa. You've lost your damn mind. Have I? Grandpa said, stepping closer. Then why don't you ask your wife? Ask her why she was so scared when Emily was born. Ask her why I had to step in and pay for everything when you wouldn't. Her father turned to her mom, his eyes wild. Linda, tell him he's crazy. Tell him. Her mom's lips trembled. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she looked down at her hands. That silence said more than any confession could. You son of a bitch, her father hissed, turning back to Grandpa. You're making this up to turn her against me. I don't need to make anything up, Grandpa said. You've done that all by yourself. You've treated her like garbage because deep down, you knew she wasn't yours. You took it out on her because you couldn't face the truth. Emily's head was reeling. She stood up, her chair tipping over behind her. Wait, stop. Somebody tell me what's going on. Mom, is this true? Am I not his daughter? Her mom finally spoke, her voice barely audible. Emily, I didn't want you to find out like this. Find out what? Emily shouted, her voice cracking. That he's not my dad? That you've been lying to me my whole life? Her father lunged toward her mom, grabbing her arm. You better start talking, Linda, or I swear to God. Get your hands off her, Grandpa yelled, stepping between them. You don't touch her, you hear me? You've done enough damage. Her father shoved Grandpa back, hard. Stay out of this, old man. This is my family. Not anymore, Grandpa said, regaining his balance. You don't get to claim them, not after what you've done. Emily's younger brothers were crying now, huddled together in their seats. Her aunts and uncles murmured to each other, too shocked to intervene. Emily felt like the room was spinning. She turned to her mom. Who's my real father? Then tell me. Her mom wiped her eyes, her voice shaking. It was a man I knew before your dad. We were together for a little while, and then I found out I was pregnant. I didn't know what to do. Your dad, Dom, he said he'd take care of us. He said he'd raise you as his own. But he didn't, Grandpa cut in, glaring at her father. He held it over her head. He made her feel like she owed him. And when you came along, Emily, he couldn't handle it. He saw someone else's kid every time he looked at you. Her father's face twisted with rage. Shut up. Shut your damn mouth. You don't know what it's like raising a kid that's not yours, knowing your wife screwed around behind your back. You knew before you married her, Grandpa shouted. You made your choice, Tom. You don't get to punish Emily for it. Emily's knees buckled. She grabbed a table to steady herself. So that's why, she said, her voice trembling with fury. That's why you've always hated me. That's why you've called me worthless my whole life. Because I'm not yours? Her father didn't answer. He just stood there, breathing hard, his fists clenched. For the first time, he didn't have a comeback. You're a monster, Emily said, tears streaming down her face. You've made me feel like nothing, and it's because of your own damn insecurities. You don't talk to me like that. Her father roared, stepping toward her. Grandpa blocked his path. You touch her, and I'll put you through that wall, Tom. I mean it. Her father stopped, glaring at Grandpa. The tension in the room was suffocating. Finally, he turned and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Emily sank back into her chair, sobbing. Her mom reached for her hand, but Emily pulled away. Don't, she said. You lied to me, both of you. Grandpa sat down beside her, his voice soft now. I'm sorry, kid. I should have said something sooner. I thought I was protecting you, keeping the peace, but I was wrong. Emmy looked at him, her eyes red. Why now? Why tell me like this? Because I couldn't watch him tear you apart anymore, Grandpa said. You deserve to know the truth. You deserve better than him. The family sat in stunned silence, the weight of everything settling over them. Emily didn't know what to feel. Anger, betrayal, relief. It was all too much. But as she looked at Grandpa, she saw something she hadn't seen in years. Someone who believed in her.